Hey everybody, I'm Jane Johnston.
I'm Sean Provencher, and welcome to our monthly market report for the month of March on the Victoria Real Estate Board.
Why do we call it March Madness? What do you think of that name?
That's amazing. Yes. This has truly been a mad month. So strap in, folks.
Let's rock and roll. Okay. So, what's your theory about how the market's been doing?
You know, it's been an interesting month. A lot of the markers on the narrative report that they provide make it look like very little happened. We're a little bit down on sales, or it kind of looks mushy. But I've noticed a few things that stood out to me, and I actually think there's some signals of a really healthy market. So it's a really pleasant market to navigate. Um, Buyers have a lot of choice. We can work with typical conditions. There's not 30 people showing up at every property, but at the same time, it's not shocking or clickbait worthy. So a lot of people aren't talking about it.
Okay, so when you're saying there's a lot of choice and 30 people aren't showing up, that says to me that there's more supply. And so with higher inventory means a bit of a softening on the market. But I think I would call it actually we are having micro markets. I think we're seeing a lot of micro markets. So we're seeing hot areas in the city, not in the city as a whole, in Greater Victoria.
Yep, I agree. I agree. There's some really interesting areas that people are spending money to. I'll talk about that a bit more in a minute, but tell us more, Jane, because you just did a big analysis of this month versus last year in March. What stands out to you?
Right. Okay, so active listings increased from 3,023 in March of 2025 to 3,261 in March of 2026. And that's all listings. Residential listings increased from 2323 to 2502. So we're seeing about a 10% increase. And so what that means is just that there's just more choice. So for before, where maybe you were looking at 10 properties, now you can look at 11 properties. Just that takes a little pressure off the buyers. So, and I think that means that the buyers are taking their time. Feels like
Yeah.
that. Longer days on market.
At the same time, too, we had 5.5% fewer sales than we did March last year. So we've got a lot of property on the market, and we're not seeing sales increase to keep pace. In fact, they're going the opposite direction. So it'll be interesting to see if inventory builds up through the rest of the spring. It's still early in the year, is the thing that I keep coming back to. There's a lot of uncertainty with world events and stuff like that. So I think a lot of people might have just said, yeah, I want to wait until the Bank of Canada makes their announcement, or give it a couple weeks. Typically, these aren't the heaviest months of the year for sales, though. Typically, it would be like April's kind of where things really shift into gear, and then May and June are usually where we see peak sales. So it has a good potential to just rebalance itself anyways.
Right. I think for me, it has felt slow because, like, for our team, it just feels like we're not having as many sales as we normally do in terms of both on the buying side and the selling side. So I have felt it hasn't been that active. That being said, just anecdotally talking to other agents over the past week, they have said that they felt that the market actually had gone through a big change. And so we did have an offer on a property. We did go into multiple offers on one of our listings. So it's not necessarily, and that property has been on the market for a while, and it's not necessarily saying that we're going to get the multiple offers right off the bat, but when the offer comes in, we can generate the multiple offers, which is to a benefit to the seller. So that has to do with buyer incentive to purchase, but it also has to do with listing agent coordination of all the other agents to ensure that all the interest comes together at the same time.
It's also really fascinating, like the whole multiple offer situation, because people think that was just a COVID thing, but it's really not. It's just a thing that happens when attractive properties are well positioned in the market. We've seen this consistently over the past 2 years, that well-priced, well-presented properties that are, positioned well and everything is set up properly will often go into multiples. it's not what it used to be where buyers are throwing all of their caution to the wind and they're going in without any conditions. A lot of the time you'll have two or three offers and you'll still end up at or sometimes even below asking. I'm not talking about your multiple offer this week, but just in general when we're navigating the market, like this is something that we see a lot. Buyers are paying what they believe fair value is for the home. And that's kind of what's led the market to be so steady, even though well-priced properties often will have more than one offer come together at the same time.
Right. So when a buyer writes an offer, they're anticipating where the market's going. They're also ranking your property. So maybe they'll go out and they'll see 10 listings and they'll do their own market analysis and look at all the inventory out there, seeing what the value is that you're offering to people. So it's not just price, it's finishings, it's how it's presented. It's when it's available. That's another thing. So things that are houses that are rented right now or condos that are rented, you have a 3-month possession. That can be a turnoff to some buyers, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And also just insecurity of what's going to happen with the tenant. Like, are they going to leave on time? Is it going to be a problem that the buyer needs to assume if they don't agree with exiting the property? So there's an added layer of it's just uncertainty. And if you have choice in the marketplace and there's lots of nice properties to choose from, maybe that's the direction that a lot of buyers don't feel like they need to push themselves. So it can be really tough with tenants.
So one of the things that I noticed this year is just that the housing market, single family dwellings have done well, but condos seem to have really slowed down. I feel that's in part due to the foreign buyer ban. It's also regarding the limiting of foreign students coming into town. There's just been less people to occupy condos. And I noticed I have a condo for rent right now and people are negotiating on the rent. So
I can see that, yeah.
Yeah. So I think that what's going to happen is if you have enough tenants who are negotiating down, then you're going to have sellers who are going to have to sell because they can't afford to carry the suite. Right?
It'll be really interesting to see what happens with our condo market. There's not a lot of new construction starts that are doing condo sales right now. A lot of the new construction starts are purpose-built rental, which is just going to further drive down prices of rentals. But what might offset that with our condo market is that newer product will be in short supply. So it'll be interesting over, like, say, the next 5 years, because newer properties that are, in really desirable positions in terms of like their location and they're well built and, beautiful to live in, might actually perform really well, just because I don't think we're going to see a lot of them that are being built over the next 5 years. And there's always people who are going to want to own condos.
So, sorry.
Jane, we're shooting a market report.
Sorry.
Are you texting me? My
no,
phone
I
got
have.
a ding
I
at the
have
same
a.
time, but I ignored it. Just saying.
I have a building inspection going on right now. I'm blushing.
All right. Well, I have something interesting that I. Okay, you want to bring it home?
I want to disagree with that because there are specifically residential condos being built. They're being built in Royal Bay. They're being built in Esquimalt and View Royal. And what I'm noticing is, especially in Royal Bay, the developer Path Development has done something really cool. They have approached all the people who are tenants and said, how about we apply a certain portion of your purchase, of your rental, monthly rental, so it's not a rent to own, but we have a program where we'll apply a certain portion for you to purchase in the future. And this is really smart because there's two main developers selling condos in there. And one is saying, at the end of 2 years, you're going to have $15,000 to purchase a condo with our development, or you can go across the street and you're not going to have that. Isn't that smart?
That is really smart. That is really smart.
Yeah. So I'm like, this is somebody who's playing the long game. And, although condo prices are down right now, I really feel that in the long run, we're not going to see this staying where we are right now. I think we're going to have a rebound at some point. The condo market's going to go up, and all these people are going to be in place to purchase because they'll have a down payment.
Yeah. Well, time will tell. I think we could both be right on this one. Now, we both said that we think they'll do well in the long run for newer condos. Okay. I've also noticed that it's really interesting. So we've got this market that if you look at the HPI, it says that it's down. Average price for single family detached was up 5 points year over year. So it's performing well. And when we look at average outperforming the HPI and outperforming the median was flat for single family homes. What that means is that more bigger properties are selling, right? And so I was just kind of like poking through the numbers in anticipation of this fun that we're having right now. And one thing that I noticed is that there's this gap between average and median, and that gap usually represents how many larger homes are being sold in each area. Now, when we think about this, what it means is that people are buying luxury properties, right? And when we think luxury properties, sorry, do you want to chime in?
Let's just say, so median is the middle point of all the houses. It's the middle point, and average is the price of all the houses divided by the number of homes sold. So
exactly. So median is if you have 9 sales in a given sample, the median would be 5 because there's 4 sales above it and 4 below it. It's a pretty good representation of what the average home is. And if you look at the median price and then you look at the HPI, which is supposed to represent an average home, they're usually pretty comparable.
Yeah.
We're used to Oak Bay being the big hot commodity for luxury properties. But what's interesting is the average price and the median price were almost identical in Oak Bay. They were like 300 grand apart. But when we looked at the areas that had the biggest disparities, meaning that a lot of way above average homes are selling in these areas, it was all in the peninsula. North Saanich, Central Saanich, and Sydney performed really well. In particular, I'm going to just pull this number up because it gobsmacked me. Central Saanich had an average price that was $772,000 higher than their median in March. So people who are dropping bigger dollars, $3-4 million, a lot of those transactions are actually showing up in Central Saanich as opposed to Oak Bay right now.
So I did a similar analysis, and detached sales have improved in places Saanich East, Central Saanich, North Saanich, Sydney, Malahat, and the Gulf Islands. So we're looking at people moving out of the core. While detached sales softened in Langford, Colwood, Victoria, Vic West, and Souk. Interesting. Yeah, in the core. Yeah, and I agree. And I think it has to do with proximity to airport and ferry for people who may be living in Victoria part-time and traveling elsewhere to work. What do you think?
I think the other thing is just like post-COVID, people value cities less. And you can live in Central Saanich and still be downtown in 25 minutes. But in Oak Bay, you're going to get, a quarter, maybe a half an acre if you're lucky. Whereas in Central Saanich, you can be on a 5-acre lot. You can be easily on waterfront. So I think that people are just kind of doing the analysis of what different value looks like to them for what they pay versus what they get. And there's some really amazing properties on the peninsula. I don't blame them. It makes sense to me.
So also, if you look at Oak Bay has been transitioning quite quickly from single family homes on large lots to now there's development happening. So we're seeing duplexes, fourplexes, maybe some small apartment buildings in areas that were traditionally just single family homes. And it's interesting because there's a Facebook page called Oak Bay Local, and somebody put a picture of two, like maybe 3-story condo buildings with maybe 12 units in them on 2 corners, and saying, this is what Oak Bay is going to be coming, and, we should move away from this, and why are we doing this, and wanting everything to stay the same. Meanwhile, the other comments in the group were, So what? We need this to happen because it's been the only municipality where there's been negative growth over the past decade or so. So we need this, it's playing catch up. And to me, what it's doing is maybe it's devaluing the average price because now things like septic, which would limit subdivision in places like Central Saanich and North Saanich, don't limit subdivision in Oak Bay. So we're seeing kind of the tail wagging the dog here. The legislation is having effect.
It's so funny too, because a lot of the time you'll speak to those same people who don't want change, and they say things like, "Why don't builders build product for people who want to downsize?" And I think it's going to be really healthy for Oak Bay. It's a vibrant area, but bringing, just like you said, like the negative growth thing, like bringing new life into an area like that, it'll help the local businesses. It'll expand the strip. The reason people move to Oak Bay is for its walkability, and it's got some of the best waterfront. And there's a lot of people who are reaching that age range where they're in these bigger houses they don't want to stay in anymore, but they also don't want to leave the area. So,
Yeah.
More new choice, and looking at something that if you're a downsizer in Oak Bay, really your main options are, 1970s and 80s condos, which often have a lot of fixing up that's needed. They have a lot of special levies that often will come up with windows and balconies and stuff. These can be huge price points. It's got to feel nice to make someone want to leave a home that they've cared for, they've updated themselves over the years. And I think new inventory is going to help turn that over. And the flip side to that is when you have the downsized baby boomers who've been living in a house for so long and they're not moving out of it, that's locking up family homes from being available in our inventory. So if we can start having that part of the market churn because they have new options, it's a really healthy thing for everyone.
So it's interesting because I would say Oak Bay and Metchosin have the same thing, that they both are kind of traditionally anti-development. We're really stuck in the preserving things the way things are, but we have the advantage in Metchosin of being right beside Colwood, and there's a seniors purpose-built seniors facility going in there, and there's purpose-built rentals, and so a lot of people are able to stay local, but they have to, just one municipality over. So they still have the advantages of their community. I'm pretty sure they're all going to be volunteering in Metchosin, even though they don't live there anymore. So what about seasonality here? We talked about that at the beginning. What do you think? Like, are we experiencing a regular market?
I mean, by all measures, it's a balanced market. Well-positioned listings are selling. Buyers have freedom of choice. They're not under any kind of pressure to make crazy decisions. And we're following a regular pattern so far this year of seasonality. Frankly, despite the fact that the world's been kind of funky the past few months, I'd actually say that the market's doing pretty darn good, all things said. So, yeah, I mean, we should expect that over the next few months, we'll continue to see healthy new inventory coming to the market, so buyers will have choice. And I also think that the market will absorb it.
I also think that now is not the time really to try and try a price out and negotiate down. I think it's really what you were saying at the beginning, where if it's well priced, you're going to get multiple offers. I think we need to really focus on that, because if you're not getting people through the door, you're overpriced, because we know the marketing works. We know our marketing works.
We're not experimenting. We've sold thousands of homes using these marketing. It's the same process. We don't skip anything. You're not a guinea pig. If you're not getting showings, it's because we're mispositioned in the market. Right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I completely agree. And if you just think about that as a whole, like if you're listing your house for sale, you're essentially entering a contest to get the buyer who is available this month. When we have, I'm going to give rough numbers, about 500 sales every month and 3,000 properties on the market. That's a tight competition. There's a lot of options for every single deal that goes through every single month. There was a fight to get that buyer's eyeballs, to win after they viewed multiple options. And so if you are misplaced in the market in your price range, they're not going to look at you because they're going to see lots of better options in your price range. You're not even going to get showing. So you have to really sharpen your pencil right now.
Yeah, I was gonna say. So, what you're saying, the odds are 1 in 6.
Yeah.
You have a 1 in 6 chance of selling. So how do you become that 1 in 6? You show up the best. You're priced the most competitively. So I would say in the top 3 to 5,
Yep.
and you are or lowest 3 to 5. And the other thing to think about when you're doing this is peace of mind. Just making sure, right? Like, yeah, sellers say they don't want to give it away, but what's the cost of holding onto a property that's overpriced? It's not healthy.
Yeah. Generally, right now, it's funny you said peace of mind. Generally, really, right now, because the market's so flat and costs are so high to make improvements, we're not really recommending many upgrades in anticipation of a sale. But one thing that we see a lot of sellers doing is they'll be stepping over dollars to pick up pennies by skipping maintenance. If you're selling a home in a market like this, you like I'm not going to say put in new kitchen counters. I'm not going to say upgrade the bathroom vanity, but if your house looks like there's deferred maintenance and a buyer walks in and just anything is off, like it needs to be spotlessly clean, the paint needs to be touched up, leaky faucets, creaky doors, like those things cost such a small amount to fix. If you lose an offer and you end up sitting on the market for 2 months, you're not going to be doing a 2K price reduction. That's the same amount you save doing those fix up. You're going to be doing a $30,000 or $50,000 price adjustment. So invest the small amount in getting your house show ready. Just bring it up to the standard, and then you'll save yourself often a $30,000 or $50,000 price cut.
That is so true. I totally agree with that. And that's exactly why we stage the homes, right?
Yeah,
Because we
yeah,
want them to show
absolutely.
up really well.
Yeah,
The biggest
absolutely.
mistake I would say that sellers make is not following the stager's instructions. Like,
Yeah,
we pay for the consultation so that they have the advantage of showing their home at 110% of what it's showing. I mean, sometimes they don't need it, obviously, but even us, we're selling an investment property and I'm getting a deck fixed. Do I want to spend money on the deck? No. But do I want to take money off on the negotiation in the future? No. I want somebody to come in and go, green flag, green flag, green flag, not red flag,
and I'll
right?
just say you said some properties don't need it. That's occasionally true, but that is a rare exception. I remember a couple of houses ago, I spent a month getting my house ready before I brought my stager in. I was like, I got this aced. I left with 9 pages of notes, and I'm a realtor. Okay. So don't assume just because you keep your house neat and tidy, it's good to go. The way that homes show best for sale is not the way that they show best for being the home that you live in. And plus, you get house blindness. You live in this thing, right? So you don't notice the little things in the corner or on top of the cabinets because it just becomes part of your peripheral. So take the time in advance. If you're thinking of selling, and you want to do it this spring, like you have no runway left to wait. You need to get on it right now because oftentimes to get a home showing at like peak peak levels, like you're talking at least a month or so of getting your act together.
Yeah, I agree. And I also agree regarding the timing. I think the runway analogy is quite good because the market will slow down at the end of August. It's just the way it is in Victoria. We may have a little bit of a bump in September, October, but that's usually more in the core, I would say.
Hmm.
So, hot markets for you for this, where are you going to be focusing on?
Sorry, what?
Where are you going to be focusing on for hot markets this year in Victoria? To
I
me,
think
it's the
there's a lot of areas
peninsula.
that still, yeah, I think there's a lot of areas that still serve up really good value. So, areas near the core where you can pick up a good deal. Like, I really love the areas around Fernwood and Hillside Mall. There's a lot of really cute homes you can get in there. It's super affordable. The Gorge and Esquimalt, still think are a great, great deal. Um, I'm always happy to put buyers in new development in Colwood. I would focus more on detached if possible. I think like there's just so much townhome inventory that's being added to the market every year. If you hold it for 5 or 10 years, you're going to be competing with new products still because the developments in Royal Bay and the Beachlands, those are decades still ahead of them. So there's always going to be new products. So make sure you get something with a great floor plan that stands out. And then, I was talking about the peninsula. I think it's a great area, but it's also something that kind of you need to be a specific buyer to want to focus there. So to me, I think if you're buying a luxury property, I think they make a sound investment, but at the same time, you're buying it because you want to enjoy that. This is your life. So buy it where you're going to be happy.
I always say buy a property that's unique. So either it has a view, or it has a shop, or it has like a really extensive garage, something that makes it distinct from other properties. Don't get the Dodge Caravan when you can get the, I don't know, Kia Soul. I'm not a car person. No, don't get the Dodge.
No, it would be the Honda minivan with the vacuum cleaner. That's the one you want if you're going for high-end minivans. I would know.
With cup
I couldn't
holders.
agree more. So here's another thing. I've actually had a number of people who are relocating here recently, all kind of, and they didn't say this quite like this, but areas where you can walk to a pedestrian strip with a coffee shop and a pub. Those areas are few and far between in Victoria. I just mentioned Fernwood. Esquimalt does well like that. Oak Bay Village is another big one, but we don't have a ton of different options. Cook Street Village is another really great example. So anywhere that you're in a 10 to 15 minute walking distance to a local strip where you can grab a couple groceries and there's some cute little owner operated local businesses, again, a cafe, a restaurant or pub, that is something that a lot of people put a high value on, and they're a scarce supply. So those are another way to have an X factor.
Developers take note, because this is totally key. This is why Royal Bay is going to do well. This is why West Hills hasn't done as well as Royal Bay is going to do, I think. It's missing that cute sort of commons area. So Cook Street Village, Cadbro Bay Village, Cordova Bay is doing it. They've got a few areas there.
Good point.
Saanich is great. There's like in North Saanich, there's that little store which kind of sells everything on West Saanich Road. That's an awesome place to go.
Yeah.
You're totally right. Mechosin has its village as well. I really think it's a missed opportunity there not to have a higher density right along the strip in Mechosin. I think that would go over really well. But you're totally right, because you know what? You don't want to be tied to your car in a car culture.
No,
and
yeah. And what I will say too is there's some that are close, but it's not the same vibe. So, for example, like Cedar Hill Village and downtown Langford, the Strip, you can get all of these conveniences, but it has more of a box store commercial feel. And what people really love is like more of the boutique grocer as opposed to a big Fairway, or you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. I know exactly what you mean. Yeah. It's
So that's
more
what you should buy. If you're selling,
cute.
do something fast. And just really, like, it's a great market to navigate. Now is a fantastic time to make a move. Any other people you think that we should call out, or any people that you think, we talked about sellers, buyers, timing?
Well, just that because the market is softening, it softens like this, right? And I would say right now we probably have more choice in inventory than we've had in a long time. And so I think if you want to move across and up the market, I think because we have the compression, we were talking about the slinky earlier, it's going to compress and it's going to go expand. And so what'll happen is you'll be that much further ahead. It's a good time to move.
It's a great time to upgrade. And the luxury market, when the rest of the market rebounds, the luxury market, not even luxury, but just like larger family homes, to go from, the 1.1 million to 1.5 million, you'll get so much more bang for your buck than when the whole market goes up 20% in the next whatever number of years. And you'll be better for it when the whole thing's done, because you can get into, for a relatively small upgrade right now, a much bigger property.
Yeah, and the other thing to think about if you are in a new development is just what is being planned in that new development, and do you want to buy a product now that's going to have more competition as the development continues?
Yeah.
So
That's where the X factor comes in. Get the best property with the best view if you're buying new.
Yeah, get the unique property. All right.
Well, that was a good one. That was a lot in there. Thanks for watching, everybody.
It's always nice discussing the market with you and learning your perspective, Sean. I really appreciate it.
Likewise. Yeah, absolutely. Everybody, thanks for watching. Jane, how do people get in touch with you?
All right, if you want to give me a call, my number is 250-744-0775, and you can always reach me in my car that way. Text works well, and you can check out our listings all at briarhillgroup.com. And also don't forget to follow me on Instagram, realtyteacher_remax_Victoria. How about you?
I always love calls. Just call me up. We don't even need to put it in the calendar. Let's be old school. 250-589-4166. You can text as well. All of my socials are sean.p.victoria. You can get me there. And we look forward to helping you out.
All right. Take care, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.